everyone, this is Star Zenith 33, Laura Francesca here, talking to you on the podcast of the Astroweather Celestial Clockwork. And we're going to be talking about a special subject, okay? And that is Draconian charts. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do it is because my current I would say system where I normally read the charts, they were under construction, but it looks like they're back up. So I wanted to talk about a different topic without looking at the chart. And luckily I do have also AstroGold. So not on the PC, but on my phone. And I was able to grab that chart. I was pretty creative. I was able to grab that chart and then upload it into my Mac, and then I was able to see it on my screen here till it came back up, but it looks like they're back up. So they're just doing upgrades and so forth. So either way, I'm still going to talk about the subject. And I think it's a fascinating subject just in case. And when it comes to astrology, in case anybody has never heard of Draconian charts, which are dragon charts. And I just find them very fascinating because it has to do with the soul. Okay, so let's jump in there and talk about it. Welcome to the podcast. So I'm feeling a little bit upbeat. I have my coffee here. I just sprayed some aroma in my podcast room. And let me take a sip. And I really like to podcast in the daytime. I don't know if you guys lately, I think I've done already about 2 podcasts, one in Spanish and one in English, where I'm talking at nighttime. And usually nighttime, that's our downtime. Oh, I just got caught. You know what? I'm just going to keep talking. So let me take another sip. So usually, in the nighttime, we wind down and, we feel a little bit more mysterious, and just actually we can hear more. And I am a night owl, by the way. I usually do work a lot at night, which I shouldn't. I should actually be sleeping. But because of my astrology, I tend to not sleep at night, really. Because I have Aries in the 12th house. So the 12th house has to do with the feet, and it has to do with sleep, and it has to do with dreams. This is why I have a lot of dreams, But my dreams are not just regular dreams, okay? They're really prophetic, and a lot of them are messages about what to watch out for or what to look into or anything like that. They're pretty prophetic, okay? Especially in the sign of Aries, that is ruled by Mars, which has to do with action. It has to do with war. It has to do with movement and so forth. And which is the irony that when I had a dream that I crashed in my car, I did crash. I think it was a week later after I had that dream. Okay. And in my dream, I passed away. So it's a very powerful dream because I passed away in a car accident. And a week later, I did get into a car accident. And it's not because I was thinking of that dream. I was just thinking, oh, maybe it's just a bad nightmare. I didn't really put much attention to that dream. And a week later, many years ago, several years ago, I think this was in 2014 when I crashed. And I ended up crashing. Okay. And so, but I survived. So I got out of the car accident with no scratches on me, nothing. So it was a blessing from God. And but it was already told to me in the dream that I was gonna make it, that I was not gonna pass away. It was not my time, in other words. But I went through the whole pearly gates and everything. And it's just that I was stopped. Like I couldn't go further, and I couldn't see further. I couldn't go further. And God sent me back, and He said, it's not your time yet. You still have a lot to do, and you have to fight really hard. So I already cycled that, all that fighting and stuff. Um, and now it's more about, making an impact, making a difference, and so forth. Um, but it's so interesting. So that's why I tend to dream a lot. It has a lot of them has to do with like competition and war and accidents. And I wish there were some of them are beautiful dreams. I recently had a dream, actually 2 days ago, or I think it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yes, it was yesterday. I don't know what was going on yesterday. Um, but yeah, I was very off yesterday. The very last degrees of Libra, the moon in Libra, and it was connecting to my Uranus, which is the planet of shocks and innovation and also mental illness. So, I don't know what was going on, because I don't have mental illness, okay? Um, and I'm not somebody that has anxiety either. I don't tend to get anxiety. I'm not prone to anxiety, so I don't know what was going on. But it could have been, there was a lot of like oppositions happening there, squares, and so there it was pretty chaotic. And if you don't understand astrology, you're not going to understand why you kind of feel like you're going insane. And this is why it's very important for me to do the astro weather so people can understand the frequencies. And if you do feel a little bit off, if you do feel like you're losing your marbles a little bit, then you know that it's the astros. Okay, it's the planets that are causing chaos, that are doing things, and no, you're not crazy. Okay, and it's very important. This is why medical astrology is super important, because when it comes to patients, when it comes to especially mental illness people, okay, that get medicated and so forth, it's very important medical astrology because, um, a lot of times a doctor will prescribe medication, but it's not getting to the root of the problem. And these planets do get to the root of the problem because they will bring chaos, destruction, um, in our lives in order for us to fix it. And medication, it does not fix. Okay, we know it doesn't heal. Um, it will pretty much put a band-aid on a situation, but if you pull the band-aid, it's still there, right? Now, with astrology, it's good to know about the stars and the planets and how it's impacting medicine, how it's impacting a mental illness person, right? And whether you have mental illness or not, it impacts all of us, okay? But especially people that are mentally disabled. So, because what these planets do, it impacts more, with the higher vibrancy. And, you know, a lot of times it's the planet why people are going insane. Okay. So you got to pay attention and listen to the astro weather. Okay. Shameless plug, but it's the truth. I love talking about the frequencies and how they impact us and how they make us grumpy and how they make us happy and how they make us emotional and so forth. Right. Mm. So, hang on 1 second. Let me just grab one of these. Okay, I just want to go grab one of these tangerine sore throat drops, and not that I have sore throat problems, but when we're podcasting, we need to clear our throat and so forth, and that's one of the tools that podcasters use. By the way, they use these lounges for the sore throat, or some water. I don't have water with me right now, but I do have my coffee. So, so that is what's happening, right? And so that's why I do the astro weather. But here I'm going to be talking about um, the draconian charts. Okay, the draconian charts. Uh, it's really fascinating to talk about them because what it is your soul chart. Okay, your soul purpose, your karmic memory, and how you evolve spiritually. So the word draconic, it comes from the Latin word Draco, meaning dragon. Okay. It refers to the lunar nodes, which is the dragon's head, which is the north node, and the dragon's tail, which is the south node. Okay. And unlike the natal chart, which is your birth chart, it describes what your birth chart describes your personality, your life circumstances, your psychological tendencies, and your human experience, right? While the draconian chart is interpreted as the soul's blueprint, the deeper spiritual self, the underlying motivation behind the incarnation. So we incarnate here as, as human beings for the second time. And what is the motivation in this second term here, in this new cycle of incarnation? It's also ruling the consciousness that exists beneath the personality. Okay, so think of it this way: the natal chart is who you become here, and the draconian chart is why your soul came here. Okay, and so the soul is your authentic self. Now, in the birth chart, in the natal chart, is what we need to master, right? And the draconian chart is what's very familiar of what you did in your past life, right? And what your soul is telling you need to do here in this lifetime. So the draconian chart is not separate from your birth chart. Okay, it's not separate. You combine it. You combine your birth chart and you combine the draconian chart, which is your soul. Okay, your most authentic self, your soul. I would even say that the draconian chart is even more of who you are than your birth chart, because your birth chart is what you need to master. We come here as babies. Like, for instance, I have a stellium in Libra, right? A stellium is 3 or more planets in a zodiac sign, which is like Libra for me. And I have a stellium in Pisces as well. So here in this life, when I was a baby, I'm supposed to master, right? And I believe I have a little on the Pisces side, but on the Libra side, not so much. I'm still working on that. And, the Pisces is being spiritual and so forth, being dreamy. And it is also being psychic, and I have it all in late degrees, okay? Which means that I'm an advanced Pisces. I'm an evolved Pisces. When you have a small degree or a beginning degree, which is like a baby degree, you're a baby Pisces. If you have like 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, which is called the first decan, right? Then you're just learning the ropes as a Pisces, right? There's still a lot for you to learn, a lot for you to go through. And it's more likely that you can be like a martyr. Of course, we got to look at other things as well in the chart. But most likely, early degree Pisces, they tend to fall really easy over things. They get deceived a lot. And the later degree Pisces, they do not. Okay. I'm one of the later degree Pisces. I'm at the tail of Pisces Aries. So just like 1 degree. I was born at 28 degrees. Okay. So it ends at 29. And then at 1, it becomes an Aries. So I almost was in Aries just by 2 degrees apart. Really, really tight, tight there. And this is why I'm born on the tail of the fish. And, I'm very in between Aries and Pisces. So it's not easy to fool me, okay, in case anybody wants to fool me. But, everybody has to go through, you know, through times when you probably will be fooled, and I was fooled before, but I had to master the Pisces how not to get fooled again, right? And so now I'm very much aware. Um so that's a little explanation there on the degrees. You got early degrees, you got a lot to learn. You got later degrees, you're experienced, okay? You're a pro. And but because I do have stellium in Libra, it has to do very feminine. They have a lot of friends. They're very popular, intelligent. A lot of them rule judges and attorneys and courts and so forth. Um, a lot of them are models as well because of the beauty is ruled by Venus. Okay, so Libra is more what I've been trying to master here. I don't think I have mastered it yet. And it's more, I mean, I do a lot of self-care, like beauty things and so forth, but I don't, you know, I can't say that I have like a bunch of friends. I've gone through a lot of shifts in my life where God has separated me from friends, from just people in general, my community, family, and so forth. And that's only because God is working in our lives, and and God doesn't want me to be alone. No, but so there's going to be certain times when God will separate you from the rest of the pack and has to work through you because there's a mission you're on, you know, and a serious mission, right? That has to do with the collective and so forth. And once I'm ready and God says, okay, you're good to go, you're good to go out in the world and go and make that change, then that's going to happen, right? So, it's very important for me to master the Libra, because very feminine. I'm not really a dress person, I said it. And that's something that I'm going to have to open myself to. Um, I am wearing actually a dress right now, but it's like one of those, it's not really like an outgoing dress. It's more like, it's made out of cotton, and I like how it flows in my body and stuff. And it doesn't even feel like it's a dress, it's just, but it is a dress. And I just love it because it's so comfortable. But it's wearing like a tight dress and all that. I used to wear tight dresses like that before, but I don't know what happened. I just, I'm not into parties anymore like before, and so forth. And so I'm not out there clubbing it. You know what I mean? And so I don't wear those kind of dresses anymore, nothing like that. I think we all mature after a while, and we don't wear like, it doesn't mean you can't wear tight dresses, you know what I mean? Um, Maybe if I go to some party or something, maybe I will. It just depends. I just have not been out in the social scene like that, for a long time. Um, but yeah, I do have to master the Libra. And I have mastered as far as like doing spatials, doing facials, and just trying to beautify myself, wearing perfumes, and and taking care of myself and health wise also, because that's where I have it in the sixth house. And I invest a lot in health. Okay. I have this fun plate, the fitness plate. Oh my God, I'm in love with it. I love to get on it because it looks like I'm surfing and I'm actually doing exercise. And it's good overall, not just exercise, but it's health wise, it's amazing. There's a lot of reviews on it and everything. But I do invest a lot in health, a lot in products, and um, you know, just a lot of things. So enough about that, but let's talk about here. I'm just giving you guys an example that with our birth chart, there's a lot for us to master. The Draconian, we don't master anything in the Draconian, okay? So these Draconian charts, have to do with our soul at a soul level, um, where we are here to innovate, to liberate ourselves, and to challenge outdated systems. Okay, so think of the natal chart as your vehicle and the Draconian chart as a driver. Okay, so um, these soul charts that are called Draconian charts, they are associated with karma, with destiny, evolution, reincarnation themes, and your soul growth. Because the Draconian chart is entirely recalibrated from the North Node. Many of us view it as a map of the soul's intention, okay? Our growth, our intention. So basically, when we look at a Draconian chart, um, it's I don't want to make it so I'm explaining it the best that I can because it's not the easiest to explain, but um, we have to cast it out with the North Node in Aries, okay? Because it's the head and the tail, and that's how we can view the whole chart, okay? So it starts with the North Node in Aries, okay? Everybody has it when you're looking at it. Everybody has it in the North Node in Aries when we're looking at a Draconian chart. And so the North Node, it becomes the compass, okay? And everything else is measured from that point, okay? So we start with the North Node in Aries. So what are some of the things to look at Draconian chart? And the reason I'm talking about this is because I looked at today's Draconian chart. Yes, you can do that. Okay, sometimes we might look at the Draconian chart, our own Draconian chart, right? To see where we were in our past lives, our soul, what do we come here to do? And it has a tie to our past lives. But so I looked at it, and right now, what I'm talking about is what we can look at when it comes to Draconian chart. Okay. For instance, if we're examining today's chart, okay, rather than focusing on our own chart, this is for the whole collective. Some of the questions that we can ask is, what is humanity collectively learning? What is the collective soul moving towards? What evolutionary lesson is emerging beneath current events? So this creates a fascinating angle because we're moving beyond headlines and more into a deeper meaning. Now, today we have the moon in Scorpio. So this is a perfect time to talk about this because we're diving deep, okay, into what these Draconian charts mean. I also do Draconian chart readings, by the way. You can go to www.starzenith33.com. Just putting it out there. So many astrologers are interested in Draconian charts because we can tell a lot through relationships, okay? We could tell like a person's Draconian sun is conjuncting with the partner's moon, or a Draconian Venus, okay, is coming together with the partner's North Node, A Draconian's ascendant, which is a rising, is conjuncting the partner's sun. And these are very much aligned relationships, okay? And they could create a feeling of instant familiarity, of recognition, of destiny, of I've known you before, right? And whether one believes in reincarnation or not, these contacts often describe relationships that feel unusually significant, okay? So they feel very familiar. And, it's when you meet someone and you're like, gosh, I got along so well with that. That's happened to me before. When I met someone, I'm like, gosh, I met this lady and we just hit it off, you know? Like we just, I don't know, we just got along so well. And that and that was one of my situations also with my private astrologer. I had a private astrologer for 3 years. And the way we met, it was just so random. And she ended up being my astrologer for 3 years. And I didn't think I needed one. And she just appeared in the right moment when I needed her, because it was like it was during Saturn and Capricorn on my Mars that I was gonna fight something big, and I couldn't do it by myself, and I needed some sort of guidance or some sort of help, and she helped me so much, and it was like boom, like we just like peas in a pot. We got along so well, and I was actually very lucky for her as well, and she just got more lucky with me. And I don't know, she was much, much older than me, way much older than me, but it was interesting. She was an actress as well. And I don't know, I think it's the first actress I ever met that became my astrologer. And it was pretty fascinating, to meet her and grow through her and so forth. And it's those type of relationship you don't always meet that way. That they're just so easy, and it's like boom, you just get along, you know. Um, so maybe she has something to do with my past life, because yeah, that's all I could say about her. Um, so one of the things here, um, that you can look at when it comes to your birth chart, look at it as a costume, the role, the script, right? And a draconian chart is going to be the actor beneath the costume, okay? The audience sees the role, the soul remembers the actor. Now, I also want to talk about these draconian charts and acting, okay? And I've said this before, I think on X when it was Twitter, I've said it before that a lot of these actors, they go and um, a lot of these actors go and I don't know why I'm hearing projection. I said there's been a lot of projection. Oh, there's been a lot of projection in social media right now. And you got to discern that, and you got to understand when there's projection going on like that, then you need to disconnect, because there's a lot of people that want to project things into your life that's not true. And when you see that, disconnect. Okay. When you see that, stop following that person, stop listening to that person, because, you know, people should not be doing that. You should not be projecting onto others. So, anyway, I don't know why that came down, but that came down. Um, so, I had mentioned in the Draconian chart when it comes to actors that it would be good for them to know their Draconian chart, because when they go audition, you need to understand that they're looking for your soul. They're looking for your soul when it comes to auditions, when it comes to acting, because it's competition. You're competing with other actors that are trying to they're trying to get the role, right? And the Draconian chart is based on your soul. So if you understand the Draconian chart, you understand your soul, and it will make you a better actress. It will make you a better actor. See, there's a lot of actors that they have to go to school, they have to look at YouTube and study the actor. And it's like, for instance, somebody's studying Marilyn Monroe. Well, you have to look at all her videos, how she used to act and everything, because you need to pretty much be like Marilyn Monroe, right? And you might not have the soul of Marilyn Monroe, but you still have to mimic her, and you have to be exactly like her. You have to look at YouTube videos, look at her old videos or her old movies and so forth. And that's an example, right? But if you knew your draconian chart, you would know, right, what your soul is like. And, depending on the role that you're auditioning for, you'll know if you're made out for it or not. You can make the decision like, maybe I should not try out for this part. It doesn't look like I have the soul for it, but I mean, you can try, you can imitate to see maybe you get the role, maybe not. But those are the best movies, okay, that win Oscar awards. The ones that where they're aligned with that soul because they had it, you know? And it wasn't so difficult to play the part because it was natural. It was natural acting. It came from the soul. This is why I say I will never sell my soul. you know, because once you sell your soul, you're screwed. You don't have your soul no more. Now you have somebody else's soul. And there's nothing more beautiful than having your own soul. You know, that's why I say my soul's not for sale. So, most people, they'll know their birth chart, but very few have explored the Draconian chart. And so this chart calculates from the nodes, from the lunar nodes. And like I mentioned, it's called the chart of the soul. So if the natal chart describes your personality and life path, the Draconian chart may reveal the deeper spiritual intention behind why you chose this life. And so today, we are exploring the hidden layer beneath the horoscope, the part of you that remembers where you've been and perhaps why you came here. Okay. And that is very, very important, very fascinating. So it's also worth mentioning the idea of the Draconian chart representing your soul is an esoteric interpretation, okay? Not really accepted, within astrology. Some, do not want to accept it because, they don't like diving deep into the whole past life. I love all that. To me, I love to know. I seen my Draconian chart, by the way. And I was a warrior. I was a warrior. I had a lot of Aries. And a lot of Aries. It's in my Draconian chart. A lot of fire. I think I had like 7 placements in fire, 7 or 8, something like that. It's a lot. So I have a lot of Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo. The less that I have is Leo, but I have a lot of Aries and a lot of Sagittarius, and a little bit of Leo there. I'm a Leo rising in my Draconian. So I was a royal in my past life. Not only was I a warrior, but I was also a royal. And a lot of royals are in military, by the way. If you study the royals, a lot of them have military background. I know Princess Diana, she came from military background. And she was a princess. And also, what is it? Prince Harry. Wasn't he involved in like military or somewhere in UK and England and so forth? And so, he was involved very much in the whole military. His brother might too. I'm not too sure, but I know Harry was involved in the military. So, Draconian charts, it looks at the soul, it looks at your higher self and your evolutionary self. Okay. So that's some of the things that I can say about the Draconian chart. So if my natal chart describes the life I'm living in this life, what does my Draconian chart reveal about the consciousness that choose it, right? So it's more authentic, the Draconian chart, but it's just good to look at it. So for today, for June 24th, I'm looking at the time. Whoa, 34 minutes already. With that explanation, when we look at the chart, the Draconian chart here, for June 24th, 2026, is very interesting. Okay. Because let me pull it up there because I had it in another, no, not there. I had it because they were working on the system, so I couldn't go in there. I'm not too sure if I have 2 systems in the astrology, But the Astro Gold does give me Draconian on there, which is pretty cool. I haven't checked on the other one, which is like Luna charts. I don't know if they have Draconian. I don't think they do. Um, but the Astro Gold here that I'm looking at does. So when I looked at it, I was like, wow. Okay. So I'm just going to run by there, run through it, and just explain a little bit since I already talked about what the Draconian charts are and how important they are. Because they help you understand yourself more on a soul level of why you came here and how it continues from the past, right? So that you can complete it here, okay, for those that have been reincarnated, like I have. So, what I'm looking at here for June 24th, for today, this is where our soul is evolving, okay? And what I'm showing is that the sun is in Leo and Mercury is in Leo. Jupiter is in Leo. So there's a lot of Leo when it comes to leadership, when it comes to famous people, celebrities. And, it's interesting. So I'm just going to go based on where I see these planets. Okay. So I see the sun in Leo. I see Mercury. Well, okay. The sun in Leo is in the 11th house of communities, of friends, circles, groups. Okay. It looks like it just entered Leo season. We just entered Cancer season. But here in the Draconian chart, our soul right now is telling us that we just entered Leo season. Okay. Just so people won't get confused, because it's like, no, it's Cancer season. Okay. But in our soul, in our heart, we're in this Leo season. Okay. We're feeling more, right? And then we have Mercury and Jupiter in Leo, and it's coming together. Okay. In the 12th house. Okay. Things that are hidden. Okay. When it comes to Mercury in Leo at 23 degrees of innovation, and Jupiter in Leo, which we're about to enter. Okay. But this one is already far, far on the 27 degree. And, this 27 degree here is of communication. So, it's a lot about communication and social media and so forth when it comes to Jupiter in Leo in the 12th house. So there's something that's secretive. Maybe it's not being exposed. It's not being put out there. It's a little bit more secretive when it pertains to Jupiter and Leo. And that has to do with leadership. That has to do with celebrities. Maybe a whole lot more celebrities are doing, behind the scenes things, or it could be anything with the 12th house. A lot of entertainment as well. It has to do with Leo. Okay. Another thing too that I'm looking at, which is very important, is that the part of fortune is in Capricorn. Okay. At 22 degrees of the elites. Okay. And that has to do with entertainment. So there's a lot of elites that are very highly invested in entertainment, especially with the whole FIFA. Okay. So that's what I see there. The moon is in Sagittarius. It has to do with countries. It has to do with everything international in the third house of communication. So, what's happening with the FIFA, we're all talking about different countries, different international countries with soccer. And there's a lot of communication there with the third house at the third degree of communication. Okay. So it is very important communication with our soul right now, with how we feel about countries. Okay. Passports, social media, anything in social media, siblings, newspapers, podcasting, all of that. Okay. That has to do with Sagittarius. That has to do with countries. Another thing too here is that, and it's so interesting because I'm looking at the moon in Sagittarius, and it's on a um let me look at there. Well, we'll skip that. We'll go over here, but yeah, well, I'll just talk about it, I guess. It's because I wanted to get to others, but okay. So the moon in Sagittarius here, it's at a Jupiter bound. Okay. So it's in the third house. And when it's a Jupiter bound, that just means that we have the moon, our feelings, our emotions, but also when it's a Jupiter bound, then that means that there can also be a frequency of luck, of expansion, of when it pertains to how we feel with countries and what we are communicating about. So it could be very over the top. And this is so accurate because this is about the soul. And what are we talking about? Very lots of plethora of communication with the FIFA. We're talking about this country and this country did this and this country did that. And, everybody representing different countries. I mean, and that's what it was about. That's what the FIFA has been about. So there's been a plethora of communication with Jupiter, okay, that is transiting along here with the moon in Sagittarius. And so that's something to look at. And I guess that's a better way for me to explain it because I probably would take a long time here trying to explain it all. But, it is just having the moon in Jupiter bound means that we have the moon and then we have Jupiter frequency as well. So that Jupiter frequency can be over the top, overindulgence, in the sign of Sagittarius that has to do with countries. And that's fine. I think that's fine as long as there's no wars and there's no fights, and everybody representing their own country and podcasting and talking about it, doing videos, the television, the ads. I mean, what's happening right now because of the whole FIFA, the beer sales are really high. And they say that when Mexico competes with, I think it's Scotland, because Scotland is into vodka and Mexico is into tequila. And they say those two liquors are going to have the highest sales. And so that's what's happening. The beer right now, and I'm monitoring, like brands and beer and stuff. And it is doing really well because of the FIFA. So that could be something to that. Okay. Also, Jupiter has to do with entertainment and fun and humor, and it could be over the top. Okay. Anything that you enjoy, which could be drinking as well. Um, Another thing that I'm noticing for today for the Draconian, where our soul is that Pluto is in Pisces. Okay. And is coming together with Juno. Juno is an asteroid of marriages, of partnerships, of contracts, of relationships. And it doesn't always have to be love. It could be a partnership at work. But usually is marriages. You're the partner you're married to. And it's at 8 degrees of transformation in the sign of Pisces. Okay. And it's coming together with Pluto, which is the ruler of wealth. Okay, Pluto. It's transformation. It is wealth. It's resources. It's also loss, and but where it's at right now at 3 degrees of communication, we are communicating. I would see it because it's coming together with Juno, which is marriages of some sort of transformation. Um, I would say, and we got Pluto at 3 degrees of communication. We're communicating about divorces, separations. Um, there are a lot of people that have gotten divorced, and a lot of it has to do with money. Okay. And it's in the sign of Pisces, right? And so it's in the sixth house of our local environment, of our health, our service, being of service. Okay. Um, and it has to do with running errands and shopping and everything. I've been talking about using the Lime bike here in our town, and they're so cool. They're actually like scooters. You don't have to pedal. They come with a battery, and I've been testing them out, and they're so cool. I rather, I don't even catch the bus anymore. I used to catch the bus, but not anymore, especially now because there's a lot of sick people inside the bus and stuff, and um, I'm just not trying to be around like, homeless people or anything like that are inside the bus, or stinky people. There's a lot of them that, unfortunately they don't have a place. They're homeless, and sometimes they do ride the bus, and it's, yeah, I try to stay as far as possible as I can because, they do smell, and it's just not healthy. You know what I mean? If you're trying to be healthy, especially if you're somebody that tends to get sick for any little thing, you know, um, and, and I'm upping my immune system to not be getting sick. And thank God I haven't got like the cold or the flu or nothing like that. I can't remember the last time I had it. And knock on wood. But, and that's only because I take care of my body and I'm taking supplements and all of that. But it's interesting because Pluto being in Pisces, it's interesting because we're not going to see this till 19 years from now, in about 20 years. Okay, Pluto's going to enter Pisces. But it's interesting that it's happening right now. It just entered, okay, at 3 degrees, 3 early degrees. So that's where our soul is. Maybe that's why there's a lot of things happening with Pisces. I don't know if you guys have noticed it or maybe not, because not everybody's an astrologer. But there's a lot of things happening with Pisces with money. I've been hearing a lot of, Pisces are going to come into big money. Pisces are into some abundant cycles right now. There's a lot of luck with Pisces. A lot of it has to do because the North Node has been in Pisces for the past 2 years, and it's about to close out. Okay, it's just right there. And actually, it's gonna in July. I don't know what day in July, but in July is when it switches to Aquarius, and is gonna be there through 26 and 7, 28, through 28. And so it's interesting because when the North Node in Pisces closes out, which is about to close out, there's a lesson, that we all have learned with North Node in Pisces about faith. And we knew we were going to get tested. A lot of us, we're going to get tested about our faith, our belief, whether we believe in what we're doing, and, I've had my own test as well, where, when it came to my work, like I had another website and then I tumbled that down, and I ended that website, and then hopefully, I'll stick to this website here, which I like it because I spend a lot of time in it and, being creative and so forth. It's an AI website, but I still had to tweak it. I still had to do, put my own creativity in it. And, it takes time to do a website, when you don't hire somebody to do it for you. And it's not, usually my websites are not really basic. They're just not. They're very detailed and so forth. So it took a lot of time for the other website. I really like how it came out, but I don't know what happened that I think it was becoming too pricey. That's what it was. It was out of my budget. And I found something more affordable and also very clean, aesthetically clean, and I really like it. So I switched it to that instead. So I've been doing a lot of, should I, you know, exit out of here? Should I end this? Should I start this? And um, I'm no longer going to be restarting and restarting. I'm just going to, continue on. But I've been tested, when it comes to Pisces, for me, it's been in the 11th house of circles, of communities, of the work that I do, and being recognized, and so forth, and working a lot in personal branding, business branding, for myself, and like ordering business cards and doing all that, investing a lot in business. For me, that's what the North Node in Pisces has meant, right? So right after this North Node ends in Pisces, it's going to enter Aquarius, right? But as it ends for Pisces, you know, if you did the work, you're going to be blessed in some sort of way, okay? For putting up for the whole 2 years, you know, of with North Node and Pisces themes of faith. I mean, look at what happened to the king tides, right? Those big gigantic waves, and how they killed out some people, they washed them offshore and so forth. And, if you're not careful, that was going to happen, But if you didn't know astrology, you were able to prevent it, right? But it didn't happen everywhere. It happened in Santa Barbara, Orange County, in here in California, and San Diego as well. In San Diego, they didn't pass away, but I believe a 5-year little girl did pass away in Orange County, Laguna Beach. And then I believe two girls, um, I think they were in college or something over there by Santa Barbara. They got washed off as well. So these were gigantic waves that had high frequency, and those were lessons as well. Those were lessons with the North Node in Pisces. So now, as it closes up, it's about to close up in July. Um, is gonna have us just analyze, what the past 2 years have meant. Like for instance, I also went to Catalina Island. I've been wanting to go to Catalina Island. I said, this is the year I'm gonna go. you know, and I ended up going. Actually, I was supposed to go on my birthday, but um, I didn't make it because my dad bought a cake and he bought flowers, and I guess he wanted all of us to spend my birthday with, you know. So he usually does that every year. So usually I can't really take off on my birthday. But then it was I'm sure they would have understood if I would have said, well, you know what? I want to spend birthday in Catalina Island. Um but they're older and so forth. So I'm like, oh, if they want to buy me a cake, let them buy me a cake. Um because these are the times that I mean, I feel blessed that I have both my parents. Okay, there's a lot of people that I went to school with that they don't have their parents anymore. Either a father passed away or a mother passed away, and I really feel blessed that I have them, and up until this old age that they are. And well, my mom's way younger than my dad by age, but my dad, he's pretty old already. He's a senior citizen. So um you know it's I already know. I mean, I know for a fact that he doesn't have a long time to go. And I'm glad that he's enjoying the whole FIFA thing. It's the most exciting thing for him. And yeah, he gets to enjoy it, and he gets to see like Mexico play and so forth. But I already know. I mean, he's in his late 80s. So I don't see him more than 10 years, that is going to make it. And with all these cycles happening as well, I mean, I came to face reality, right? It is reality. So I'd rather spend time with them right now, because they're not going to be here for a long time, especially my father. Um, so it's things like that I think about, as we wrap up the North Node in Pisces. But right now, where so after it wraps up, we will get a gift. We will get some kind of blessing that God's going to bless us for doing the work, and doing what was necessary, and having fun as well. Because Pisces, it was more about relaxation, maybe go on vacation, going to the beach, going to the ocean. Like I said, I went to Catalina Island, and it was a blessing as well. I drank me some buffalo milk milkshake with vodka. I was like, so this is a famous buffalo milk, and there's this history because they have buffaloes there that they use for filming, and then they just decided to leave them there. But I'm gonna tell you guys the real truth about it. The milk is not real buffalo. Okay, so that's the deal. It's just the whole advertising, like, oh, I'm drinking a buffalo milk. No, it's not from the buffalo. It's called the buffalo because of the buffaloes, but it's it's regular milk. Okay, with vodka. It's like creamy. It tastes real good. The milkshake tastes real good, but that's why it just became this famous drink because of the buffaloes. That's why they called it buffalo milk. So that is the real deal. um, but now that we have Pluto in Pisces with the Draconian chart, there's a lot of things. Pluto in Pisces is a very wealthy um, transit. Okay, because Pisces, the traditional ruler of Pisces, is Jupiter. So think of Pluto with Jupiter. Those placements are of billionaires, okay? Wealthy. And we know Pisces rules royals, okay? A lot of royals have Pisces in their charts. Who is it? Prince, what is it? That prince from Monaco? I think, I forgot his name. I think his dad was Prince Rainier. Um, he is a Pisces. Okay, he's one Prince, Prince Albert. Yeah, Prince Albert from Monaco. He's a Pisces. Okay, so a lot of them are royals. A lot of Pisces are royals. They're celebrities as well, and they're also spiritual people. And so right now, having it in Pluto, this is why there's a lot of things happening with Pisces right now when it comes to wealth, when it comes to abundance, prosperity, or they're coming into money. Expect this, that a lot of Pisces are going to come into a lot of money. And it's been predicted. I mean, I've seen even some YouTube videos where they say, here comes big money. Here comes a tidal wave of big money for Pisces, those that did the work, you know. And so it's interesting, where we have right now our Draconian, how we feel right now, our soul, something about Pluto and Pisces. Right now, we might feel this connection also with Pisces. We might feel something a strong chemistry or a connection with the Pisces. And not all of us, okay? But like I'm attracting a lot of people right now. A lot, okay? And I don't know if it's my perfumes, my pheromones or something, but it's also the energy right now. Um yeah, I'm hearing transfer of funds. That's what I'm hearing coming downloaded right now. Um, so Pluto and Pisces, it's interesting how we feel right now. So we might feel attracted towards a Pisces, or we might feel like it's faded, or there's something powerful, or there's something transformational with the Pisces. If we could just touch that Pisces, it might be Jesus' energy too. Okay, he was a Pisces, but it pertains to marriages. It pertains to relationships. It pertains to contracts at an 8 degree of transformation in the sign of Pisces. Okay. And it might be like maybe this could be something to do with the past because I am reading a Draconian chart of the past. So this could be you were probably married to a Pisces before, or you were about to marry a Pisces. Also, because where we have Juno in Pisces in the Draconian chart, it has a bound of Venus. Okay. So this asteroid of marriages and contracts and partnerships has frequency also of Venus that has to do with love. Okay, in the sign of Pisces at 8 degrees of transformation. Okay, 8 degrees of going deep, 8 degrees of wealth, big wealth. Okay, as it comes together with Pluto, which is transformation, which has to do with lots of money and power. Okay. And I had mentioned yesterday, I did a Spanish podcast late yesterday, and I was talking about I never wanted power, never. Because I don't have Scorpio. I have it in asteroids, but I don't have it in planets. I don't have Scorpion planets. And I never wanted power. And I feel that the people that want power are the ones that have strong Scorpio in their charts. And I never wanted power. Because I felt it just meant more responsibility. And I didn't want responsibility, right? I just wanted to be free. But that's not what God had for me, right? And usually whatever we want, God will not give us if it's not aligned with him. And so he will choose those that do not want power. He said, because you didn't want power, it's like with King Solomon. He said, what do you want, King Solomon? He said, well, I just want wisdom. He said, because you didn't ask for wealth, I'm going to give you wealth too, you know? And it's like God telling me, because you didn't want power, well, I'm going to give you power, you know? And that comes, of course, with a lot of money, right? But with a lot of responsibility. But I'm already used to being responsible, so that's not a problem for me. But money would help, resources would help to ease my work, you know, to make it easier, to be able to help more people than I'm able to do if I didn't have the money, right? We can't give what we don't have is a quote that, what is that? What is that author? John C. Maxwell. Yeah, in his book, he says you can't give what you don't have. So if you don't have money, you can't give money, like assets and or just donations or do charity work, right? And so when we have money, we can do more. And I feel I already passed the responsibility portion, which I didn't want, but I had to go through a lot through it and evolve. And so I'm just waiting for God's blessings through resources so that I can be able to help more people. Another thing too that I do have to say, we got a stellium here of Taurus. Okay, when it comes to the soul chart, and this is going to be I'm going to go really fast here because it's going to cut me off pretty soon. I'm already almost an hour here. Neptune is in Taurus. Okay, with the soul chart right now. Okay, so Neptune in Taurus is very interesting because here, the town where I live right now, it was founded upon Neptune and Taurus. Okay, so this has to do with the ocean, with real estate. There's a lot of transformation happening there. We also have Saturn in Taurus. Okay, Saturn in Taurus has to do with food supply. It has to do with real estate. It's at 12 degrees of loss. It could be something hidden. When it comes to Saturn and Taurus, um, interesting. I would say maybe they're discovering that there's some kind of oil where they're doing construction. I don't know. Something's being found. I also have to say that where Neptune and Taurus is at 2 degrees of wealth. Okay, that has to do also, it could be oil as well. I'm not saying there is, okay, so don't go digging holes and stuff like that. But I do believe that the construction workers are finding something to do with that, okay? Because it's been a little bit delayed. Like they find something and they have to stop it. And then they got to get OSHA out there and they got to get, other inspectors and stuff. And then they can start again. And I feel it's because they have found something underneath. Or it could be dead bodies because they have not opened none of that up until now. Can you imagine that? They haven't opened that since the late 1800s. You know, a lot of these restaurants, they're very vintage and they had to be demolished and they're finding things underground. Another thing too here, Palace has to do with strategy. It's in the sign of Taurus at 14 degrees of Banks. Okay. And then we got Charon and Taurus, which we have it right now, but it's at a much later degree at 28 degrees of Ancestors. So in the sign of Taurus. So this is, we're doing healing with real estate, with food. And here with the Draconian has to do with 28 degrees, a very late degree of ancestors. Okay, so there's this healing that we're doing with like ancestry, land, food, supermarkets, businesses, all of that has to do with Taurus. Okay, we also have Mars in Gemini, and I do have to say that all this Taurus here is in between, clustered between the eighth house of wealth and money and loss as well, but also in the ninth house of international. Okay, anything, this is why I say there might be dead bodies. Okay, that Neptune and Taurus is sitting right on the eighth house of dead bodies, of the death, of the dead, or something like that. And so there does need to be some cleaning up, in around this community, this city of San Pedro. Mars is in Gemini, okay, in the 10th house of elevation. That's where it's showing. Also, Uranus is in Cancer, has to do with families, okay, innovating families. We have Ceres, which rules land, is also in the sign of Cancer. And the North. Well, we're not talking about North, no, because that's where it started. I was thinking I was reading the regular. But that's where we have, in Venus, we do have it in Virgo. So, in the 12th house of secrets of the occult, it could be spell work. It could be a Virgo is a little bit quiet about, you know, maybe a crush, or and does some kind of witchy stuff. You know what I mean? It could be a little bit obsession there. Um, or very rebellious at the 11th degree. Okay, very chaotic, very rebellious, um, and doesn't understand what they're doing, because everything's karmic. So, and it's something that's hidden, that's coming out when it comes to Venus in Virgo. So that's what we have. I just wanted to go a little bit over the Draconian, and understand right now why we feel the way we feel. And it has to do with the soul, it has to do with the heart. Okay. So understand there's a lot of real estate going on with that Taurus, in Neptune, Balance, Chiron, Saturn. And then in Pisces is very powerful there with Pluto, and with marriages, marrying into, maybe with the Pisces, Pisces coming into a lot of money, and a lot of talks about Pisces, but I also see a lot of Leo as well. Okay, with Mercury and Jupiter and the Sun, that's a lot of like spotlight and being famous, and um, but it is a little bit hidden there in the 12th house. Okay, so it's not really so much out there, but yeah, that's what we have. And I just wanted to do a different type of podcast. Maybe you will understand this podcast, maybe not. But I just wanted to put it out there for those that are learning astrology, and to understand that Draconian chart has to do with our soul, our authentic soul. And this is how we're feeling right now. Okay. This is how we're feeling right now. So anyway, if you did like the episode, do like, do share, do subscribe, do tell your friends and family, and just follow the podcast, because I do normally different type of podcasts. I'm going to be doing power moves, when to do power moves, any transits with that, favorable timings as well, because astrology has to do with timing and alignment. And yeah, and I'll be doing that. So just if you did like it, do like, share, subscribe, tell your friends and family, and I will talk to you on the next one. Bye.